About 2 years ago, I had to do a pretty major migration from Max into Maya, and at the time, it was really frustrating because I knew Max so well, and I kept on looking on Google to find things like, hey, where's the material editor in Maya, and where's this in Maya? And it's always called something different between these platforms. So if you already know Max, it's kind of ridiculous to hop into Maya just cold turkey and just be completely lost when you already know a program so well, and you could just take that knowledge and sort of just migrate it over, and it's so easy to do if you just know where to look. And so that's kind of what I'm doing in this tutorial, is just to give you sort of a map to help you just apply what you already know, and I hope it helps. So first off, let's start with just simple viewport navigation. In Max, you're probably used to using the Alt middle mouse button to rotate around a scene, and then Alt or Control Alt middle mouse button to zoom in and out, and then just middle mouse button to pan around the scene. In Maya, it's just a little bit different. Everything is on the Alt key. You Alt click to rotate around the scene, Alt right click to zoom in and out, and Alt middle mouse button to pan around the scene. So really quick, let's go over the transform tools between the two. In both, it's W or Q to select, W to move, E to rotate, and R to scale. That's universal pretty much across all 3D applications. So let's talk a little bit about the interface. If you've never been in Maya before and you're not new to this concept, I need to explain this, that these menus up here are always in context to which mode you're in. And just like in Softimage or a few others, I think, there's animation, polygon, surfaces, dynamics, renderings, and dynamics, and you could also make custom menu sets. So let me just give you an example. Under animation, you have everything that's in the context of animation. If you go to polygons, everything turns into the context of polygons. And a quick shortcut that will be very helpful for you is, especially when modeling, is we'll come over here to the polygon tool set, and if you hold down spacebar, you invoke the hotbox, and whatever is local to the mode that you're in is always going to be down here on the bottom. And also, something that's very helpful in Maya is the ability to tear off entire menus. So if you're doing a lot of stuff within this menu, you could pop that off and have it all right there. Another helpful thing is you have this custom tab here. If you want to create quick reference buttons up here, then you would just hold down Control Shift and then click the button, and it'll show up here. And so you could add this entire thing if you want to. Want to delete them, then just click this little bottom arrow here, Shelf Editor, and then you can just press delete on the things you want to get rid of. Okay, so the most important thing to note, I think, next are these three tabs. There's the Attribute Editor, which will show you all the attributes, think of that, of your object over here and everything related to it. And it will give you everything from all the input and output nodes or whatever to the shader that's assigned to it. And so it's an easy way to edit everything that's within the context of the object. The next is the tool settings. No matter what tool that you have, it'll give you the options there. And everything related to what you want to do with your tool will be located in here. Now in Max, you're probably used to being able to right click on any of the transform tools and be able to do hand type ins on pretty precise numbers. In Maya, it's a little bit different, but you could do the same thing. Over here, if you go to the channel box, you have transform type ins here, and you could even move multiple ones at the same time. Anyway, you get the idea. You could combine transforms, and it gets pretty handy at times. We've already talked about the selection buttons over here. What I want to talk about next are these little shortcut buttons down here. These are pretty much just quick ways to go to quad view, single view, the outliner, which we'll cover later, and graph editor, which we'll cover later too, and material editor or hypershade, and so on and so forth. And we'll get into those, each one of those later, but that's pretty much what those are. Down here, of course, you have your time slider. It's self-explanatory. It's just the same as it is in Max pretty much. And also there's a technical term for it, but it pretty much lets you view a range of keys. You do the same thing in Max, but it's slightly less interactive. And just like in Max, down here on the bottom left, you have the ability to type in scripts. You could either use Python or Mel, and you could toggle between the two by selecting those buttons. And if you wanted to get to the debugger interface, there's this little button down here on the bottom right that will let you do your scripting and let you save it to your shelf. And like I said, it's pretty self-explanatory if you're used to it in Max. It's really easy to migrate that knowledge. Up here at the top, there's a lot of viewport shortcuts. You can mouse over them, and it'll give you the tooltip at the bottom left, and it'll explain what they do. Really quick, what I'd like to explain is how to create and use a camera. So let's go ahead and just drop a camera in this scene. This frustrated me for the longest time trying to figure out how to look through the camera. What you have to do is go to Panels, Perspective, and every new view that you create will be listed right here. So we can switch between camera view. So now we're looking through the camera, and it operates the exact same way as the perspective, or we can switch back to the perspective. That hopefully will help you navigate this a little better and make a little bit more sense. Alright, so let's move on to object creation. In Max, you're probably used to creating an object, giving it some definition, and then converting it to a polygon, and coming over here to the modifier panel and moving around some points. In Maya, it's very similar. It's just a different concept. So it's the same thing. You click, drag, set the area, and then click, drag again to set the height. And something that bugged me in Maya, whenever you start with a new scene and start creating primitives, it's always in wireframe view. So what you do, and it bugged me for the longest time, I couldn't figure out how to get things to shade. It's the numbers 4 for wire, 5 for shade, and 6 for textured, and 7 for lit, I think, if I'm not mistaken. The difference between Max and Maya is it's coming down here to the channel box, and the original input is here for the primitive, and you have your subdivisions here. And if you click those and middle click, then you could change the values. That's something important to note in Maya, is that when you're dealing with the channel box, when you have channels selected, it's middle mouse and drag to edit the value if you want it to be interactive, or you could just, do a type in, and oh, that's a little bit much. And that's how you do that. So instead of converting this to editable polygon after you create it, it's a little bit different. It's already editable. You just right click and hold, and then you have your different components right here. So edge, vertex, face, all of that's here. You even have a multi, so you could select different components on one channel. So let's go to vertex and just select what you want to move. Select the move tool, and you can move it around. In Max, you're used to the workflow of selecting your component, and then you have your whole tool set right here, self-contained within the object itself. So you also have your caddies here, and you do multiple takes on one tool, and that's what you're used to. So get ready to for a little bit of frustration here in Maya. In Maya, you go to the component you want, select face, and let's do a simple extrude. All of your modifiers aren't contained within the object. It's all contained within the menu here. We'll add extrude. All your different modifiers and tools are contained within this menu here, and distributed among these at the bottom. So the difference is you can't do multiple extrusions on one tool. You have to keep on adding extrusion after extrusion. And when you're dealing with stuff like this, it's handy to know that the key G repeats the last tool that you use. So G, G, and then you could perform your edits from there. Alright, something that you probably love in Max is the ability to select an edge when you're in a polygon, or when you're editing polys, and being able to select ring and loop, and just being able to create really quick, nice selections. It's there in Maya too, it's just kind of buried, and it's actually a little bit quicker too if you know how to use it. If you wanted to select a loop, then you would just double click on an edge and it would automatically select the loop. If you wanted to select this whole ring, you would select an edge, just hold down Control, right click, edit ring, and there you go. Hopefully you saw that. So that's how you do rings and loops in Maya.